I believe that the most important thing about any of us is not what we do, but it's who we are. What kind of person are we? What emanates from our hearts? What's deep down inside? You know, back in the 60s when I went to seminary, the big debate at that time was, what is the definition of the gospel? On the one hand, you had the social liberals who were saying, well, the gospel is freeing the oppressed. The gospel is racial reconciliation. The gospel is feminism. The gospel is feeding the poor and clothing the naked and dealing with the homeless. That's the gospel. And those of us on the other side of the coin said that that is not what the gospel is. Those things anyone can do. A Muslim can do those things. A Hindu can do those things. What makes the gospel is the uniqueness and the distinctiveness of why we're doing these things, who we are. Not what we do, but who we are. And the rest of us began to debate back and forth and saying, the gospel is what is personal. It is the commitment that you make to Jesus Christ. It's that one-on-one relationship where you trust in Him and in Him alone for your salvation. And the debate went on and on and on and on, and it's still going on. It's still going on. It goes on in just about every mainline church that I know of. You have the social conservatives, you have the theological conservatives, you have the social liberals, you have the theological liberals, and they're all fighting with each other, trying to define what the gospel is. Are we saved by faith in Christ and Christ alone, or are we saved by our works? And the answer to the question is yes, to both of the above. We are saved by faith in Christ, but that faith has feet to it. Our faith must have feet that work out the salvation that we claim we have inside. And so what we do is in the name of who we are. And who we are children of God. And so what we do in terms of the ministry to the communities around us, dealing with those who are oppressed, dealing with those who are experiencing great pain and great sorrow, flows out of the fact that we love the Lord. And we do this in His name in order to reflect Him. So it's not a faith alone, so to speak. It's a faith, it's not a works alone. It's a faith that works. It's a faith that evidences itself practically, where we put feet to what we say we believe. And so the great blessings of the Beatitudes flow into the responsibilities of being salt and light. To the person that's described in the 8 Beatitudes, covered in the previous 2 chapters, Jesus says to them and to us in verse 13, you are the salt of the earth. In verse 14, he says, you are the light of the world. What does that mean? How does that practically flesh out in your life? What do we as a church need to do to become salt and light as Jesus commanded that we are to be? The true influence we exercise in the world derives more from what we are than anything that we might do. What flows out of our being, what flows out of our character and our nature in the name of Christ, in building His kingdom, is what really counts and what really matters. You see, the people out there who are hurting and struggling, we need to determine what they feel. And then that will help us to teach them how to hear what we have to say. We must earn the right to be heard.